Hi guys, welcome back to yet another review. This time around I'm bringing you two reviews from Hiby, or two IEMs from Hiby. The Project Ace, which is this one here, which is a collaboration with F Audio, and the Hiby Yacht 10. This is kind of a flagship single DD from Hiby, while this is more of a mid-tier. The price for this is around the 230 to 240 price point, while this one is around the 100, just over $100, $110 give or take. I bought both of these IEMs from Hiby directly from their website. I got a small little discount, but anyway, that's really irrelevant. What is relevant is that, as always, I will give my honest, down-to-earth, sincere opinion about either one of them, and even if they had been given to me, I wouldn't change that opinion. I think by now those of you that follow me know that I'm very transparent, very black and white. If I like it, I like it. If I don't like it, I don't like it, and I don't have any issues with saying so. Anyway, I decided to put both of them together, obviously because they're Hibys, also because there's a certain commonality in terms of their tuning style. So I thought, well, why not just put both of them together? That's it. To kind of position them, I've brought out a few other IEMs. These ones here are more similar to the Ace, while these ones here are more similar to the Yacht. The ones that are most similar to the Ace are the FD15 from Fire Jade Audio and the Hiby's MK12, the Touris. While on this side, the ones which are more similar to the Yacht 10 or the IVipQ UTG, the NF Acous NA20, and the Twistora Wood Note. In terms of price point, these two are a little bit cheaper than the Project Ace, and about 150, 160 for either one of them. And on this end, closer, the price is closer to the Yacht. The NA20 is about $110, the UTG is about $90 to $100, depends where you're getting it from, and this is about $150 for the Wood Note, 150, 160. So they're closer. The price is more closely matched. As for the accessories for either one of them, they both are nicely accessorized. They bring a nice case, which, although not pocketable, I really appreciate. I like the case. It's a nice case. This is for the Yacht. For the Project Ace, the same situation. Actually, the Project Ace is the first one to have come out. Brings some nice tips. They both bring exchangeable terminations for the cable. Either one of them has nice cable. Obviously, the Project Ace has the better cable. So, accessories wise, I think they've ticked the right boxes. Hiby, didn't really disappoint. Good cable, good tips. I mean, really nothing to be said there. I'm actually using the stock tips here on the Yacht, on the Project Ace. On the Yacht, I'm using these tips here from Panon, and the only reason really is that this unit I actually got it second hand, to be totally honest. And it didn't bring every single tip. I did try some of the tips that it came with, and they are okay, but I found that the liqueur tips here from Panon actually did the better job. Anyway, what can I then say? Let's start here, perhaps. Actually, let's start with the more expensive. Let's start here with the Project Ace. I've had this IM for a long time, and I apologize if only now I've done the review, but it was one of those IMs that I completely and totally forgot about it, to be honest. I was overwhelmed with a whole bunch of IMs that arrived over the last couple of months, and I just completely forgot about it. And when now I recently bought the Yacht 10, it kind of dawned to me, hold on, I've got the Project Ace, I've got to review this thing. And I started listening to it while this one didn't arrive. I listened to it, I got acquainted with it, and straight away, the thing that came to me, or that jumped to me very quickly, was that it was an extremely, how can I put this not to sound in any way, hold on, I'm just trying to find here the graph so that I can kind of talk while looking at the graph. It was an IM that kind of had it. I could have had actually, yeah, the Let's Show, the DX1, because it also follows this very neutral approach to things, and then ultimately it surprises because the neutrality of the graph doesn't correspond to actually what you hear. And it's the same situation here with the Project Ace. When you look at the graph and you say to yourself, okay, it's really neutral, only at around 5 to 8K there's a little bit of rise of energy there, but otherwise from 20 hertz all the way to 4 kilohertz, everything sits within a window of 5 dBs, not even. Okay, so extremely neutral. It uses a 12 millimeter magnesium alloy driver, so straight away that neutrality of the bass, I think, has been well thought out, because the energy that we then get in the mids and in the upper mids has been duly matched. So there's no excesses, there's no overpowering on one or the other end of the frequency spectrum. And the sound that then you start listening is an extremely, not only clean and detailed sound, but it's got enough power when it needs to have power in terms of bass presence. And be it anything in terms of EDM, or be it anything in terms of the jazz music that I like listening to, I really honestly cannot say that I found it lacking in any department. To the other side, by this other space, the Night Drive by Kate Paul, Fragaria by 12, Faxon by Sasha. These are all EDM musics, or songs rather. Phenomenal job. If on the opposite end of things, I go to Swept Away by Carol Duboc, in the Sentimental Mood by Cecile Norby, Twilight by Brian Simpson, House of Groove by Eugene Groove. Again, the Ace did not disappoint. There is the occasional time where, and this, I mean, I'm going to say this with a caveat. For me, it never really bugged me, but I can understand for those that are still in their perfect hearing capabilities, or perhaps are still, or not are still, but are, although at my age, are sensitive to this 5 to 8 kilohertz area. They might find occasions where in that part of the spectrum there is a little bit of extra unnecessary energy that can make certain cymbal strikes, or can make certain female vocals just have that little extra touch of sibilance, which is unnecessary and not really welcomed. Personally, because I'm deaf, I didn't really find it to be a problem, but I will mention that. And it's a situation that both of these IMs have that issue. Difficult to say which is the one that kind of dissimulates or kind of sorts that out best. I would probably say that although neither one of them was bugging me or was excessive or in any way problematic, I would say that still the one that probably will camouflage that those aspects that I just mentioned better will probably be the Yacht 10, because of the fact that it's got a little bit extra more bass energy. Okay, although it's using a smaller, well, it is using a smaller driver, a 10mm instead of a 12, and it is tuned to have a little bit more bass. And again, it's been done with an intention to be balanced between the extremes of the frequency range, especially that point that I like always comparing, that 100 hertz, and then where it corresponds in the upper mids to treble, to upper mids to upper mids, mids to upper mids area. That balance, I think, is extremely important. I think when that balance is reached or is obtained by the way the tuning of the IM is done, 9 times out of 10 you guarantee that you're going to like the tuning. The other aspect that then must be taken into account is what is the sort of driver being used, because sometimes, depending on the driver type, that balance, although favorable on graph, can then still not be the ideal in real life. And if the driver is, for example, a beryllium driver or a titanium driver, maybe you can get away with a balance which pends more towards the bass. If on the other hand you are using an LCP driver, which has a tendency of being a little bit dark at the upper end, then the tendency, or then you can have a tuning which gives a little bit more energy to the upper frequencies, and then that balance is obtained. But as I was saying, that balance between that 100 hertz point there, where it corresponds, and the energy that you have below that, and then where it corresponds in the mids to upper mids area, around 2 kilohertz to 3 kilohertz is the ideal, somewhere between there. And then as well, the energy that's above that, if that balance is properly struck, I can confidently say that, you know, that the IM will be an IM that the sound will be light. Anyway, continuing here with the Project Ace. In terms of bass, neutral as can be, very high quality bass, neutral, not overpowering. It resolves anything I throw at it easily. Resolution of the bass, the way it breaks down the various layers, you can, honestly, not an issue there. Mids, upper mids, again, phenomenal. Clean, detailed. Female vocals are something else. And it's then also on the female vocals that in the upper frequencies, like I said earlier, and I mentioned just a couple of minutes ago, that you, maybe if you are younger, maybe if you are more sensitive to that area, you might find things just get a little bit over energetic over there. Okay, to that end, I would have seen, or what I would have liked to have seen, exchangeable nozzles here on the Project Ace. I think that would have made a difference, and that's something that, for example, we get here in the Touris. The MK12, the Hiby's MK12, I'm using the nozzle, the red nozzle, which is the one that I personally like the most. But again, the other nozzles worked fine as well. I just found that this one was the one that overall struck more times the right balance that I like. If they had done that, I think then we could have a basis to justify more its price, because ultimately that's where the Project Ace has a little bit of a hard time justifying itself. Not because of the sound, even though it doesn't have the nozzles to adjust the tuning, not because of the accessories, not because of the build. I mean, phenomenally built, well built IM. Although it's got this crazy shape, it is a real work of art, beautifully well built. I mean, phenomenal. Nothing can be said there. Nice cable, like I said. So it's not in those aspects that things they fall short. It's then in the aspect of not being so versatile in terms of the tuning. It has a hard time then to supplant not only the Touris but also the FD15. Yes, the FD15 doesn't maybe have the overall cleanliness of the sound up, you know, as the Project Ace has up top, and to that extent as well, the MK12 as well maybe loses a little bit, but both of them make up for it by a very high level or a very high degree of musicality. The FD15 also doesn't have the exchangeable nozzles, but like I said, it makes up for it by being an extremely musical IM. The way this neutral tuning has been you know, looked for or done here as well is really, I mean, it's nothing short of a properly well done job, let's put it that way. And my comparisons of the FD15 with the MIM Dark Magician are not in vain, because the reality is I think this is capable of keeping up with the MIM at a fraction of the cost. I mean, we're talking $500+ for the MIM. We're talking 150 for this. So there's no reason why the MIM in any way justifies that excess in price. The MK12, the same situation. A phenomenal IM sound-wise. I mean, nothing to... Either one of these two are... There's a reason why they are part of my favorite single EDs. The performance they offer, everything they offer, and then the price makes them a hell of a lot more justifiable than a lot of other IEMs, especially when we start crossing that single DD IEM price there of $300. I mean, I really have a hard time justifying anything above that. And no disrespect intended to Soft Tears with the Twilight, no disrespect intended to Moondrop for the I forget now the name, but their latest single DD in the $600-700 price point. No disrespect intended to the Turi and to other single DDs, the Singularity and all those. I guess they all ultimately do have their thing, and and I would love to be able to have the opportunity to listen to them, to maybe see if I could be let's say convinced of their magic nature, or in terms of reproducing sound. But or from what I've known and what I've seen, and from my many years now in the hobby, and pretty much I would say, I'm not going to say hundreds because it's also not saying the correct, but I've had a couple of thousand IMs go through my ears now, so I can talk with a certain amount of confidence when I say certain things. Um, it's in terms of price for money, value for what you're getting, you know, return in investment. There's nothing, honestly, that those IMs, in my opinion, will do better than any one of these two here, for example. And I'm using these two as the main example, as the main reason now, to justify that, make justifiable you paying that extra amount of money. Nothing. MK12 Touris is phenomenal. The FD15 is phenomenal. The Origin, the 10th stream Origin in my books as well. Really good IEM. The SimGot, the Format, another IEM which is incredible, especially with the ability that you have then of making your own tuning with the exchangeable nozzles and the kit that SimGot provides. So you know, why go spend that crazy amount of money? No. The Project Ace, I will say that yes, it does tick all the right boxes for me. um, I will have it become a part of that group of single DD IMs that I like. The only thing really that I would have liked to have seen, and I'm gonna end up accepting its price because of the fact that it's a flagship, it's a collaboration, it's got this nice cable and all that, and you know, a nice looking case. No, sorry, nice looking case and everything. I'm gonna kind of justify all of that and kind of let it slide because I really do like the way it sounds. I do like the way it looks, but ultimately compared to these two, it will all depend on what price you can get them, any one of the three, four, I will be honest, and what you know you like. If you have the opportunity to listen to them, I would say that would be the most wise decision. Just one last detail here, which I wasn't mentioning, in terms of its technicalities, I would say the timbre and the tonality is very much correct. Although you might think that it can sound a little bit thin at times, I didn't find that to be the case. So timbre and tonality definitely, and then soundstage followed then by the imaging, and then finally the detailed retrieval in the imaging. I would probably say it's about the same, but definitely the timbre and the tonality is the better, let's say, technical ability here of the Project Ace. So I guess that kind of is that. Let's put that aside. Let's bring out now here the Yacht. The Yacht kind of has that same, let's say, philosophy in terms of tuning as the Project Ace. However, they've decided to, well, first of all, it's a 10mm driver, so they've given it a little extra energy in terms of the bass. So we are talking about a boost in the bass which is around the 3 dBs, all the way from 20 Hertz up to about 200 Hertz. You've got a 3 dB extra bass boost there. Let's again assume, or well, let's again not forget, it is a 10mm driver, and ultimately they actually kind of end up sounding the same because this is a slightly bigger driver here. So there's not a you notice a little bit extra thickness here in the sound of the Yacht, but it's not big. Trust me, it's not big. I think if anything, this here has been, maybe for lack of a better word, overly restrained in what the bass could do. Okay, and again, it has all to do with how they wanted to balance it out then with the mids and upper mids. But anyway, going back here to the Yacht, so you got that little extra boost there of the bass, and then in that area there between 1.5 and 3 kilohertz, you have again that same boost. The rest after that is exactly the same. So what this all means is that we have a little bit more forwardness in the vocals, which both male and female, you know, we welcome that little extra amount of energy because it's then well accompanied by what is coming from behind in terms of the bass, and then up top as well. Not much of a difference. They both sound clean, detailed, you know, very nice. There isn't a huge difference in terms of overall sound if you are having a more normal listening experience between the Yacht and the Project Ace. If you are having a more careful listen, with, you know, more quiet environment and trying different dongles and so on and so forth, then yes, then I will say that you start seeing that the Project Ace is the better product. Now, as I said earlier, is it a product that justifies twice the price? Debatable. I would have honestly, and this is just my opinion. I don't think Hiby will be. I think that if they had been able to offer this at around $180 to $200, this would have been a completely different story. I would have had an easier time to justify it then more solidly over the Touris and the FT15, as I was mentioning just earlier. But anyway, so bass, a little bit more weight, a little bit more slam in the notes, okay, but very little, very minor, but it's got a nice warm slam without losing any of the detail or any of the ability to be resolving and the various bass textures that might have, that might exist in a song. Mids, very nicely done. A little bit extra forwardness in the female vocals is actually nicely it's welcomed. I like it. And then up top, it basically the same thing as we had. Yeah, we have that little extra amount of energy on occasions in certain songs with certain instruments that can be for some of the younger people or some of the people that have my age, again, like I said, but problems in that 5 to 8 kilohertz area that can be overly energetic. I would, however, say that in terms of the technical capabilities, the soundstage and the imaging here are probably on the level of the Project Ace, and considering the price, then ultimately better than the Project Ace. Timbre and tonality, I would say very much similar as well. They both do timbre and tonality in a manner which I am satisfied with. So, I could kind of say that, okay, maybe the Yacht 10 is poor man's is not even the proper word, because I mean this is over $100, but is an alternative if going for the $250 that the Project Ace costs is too much, or is already crossing that excess there that we don't want our better halves to know about and then get into trouble with them. Then I guess yes, the Yacht will be a safe alternative to get very much the same magic of the Project Ace, and just loses in, let's say, in the more careful listening sessions, in the more when we are more attentive to what we are wanting to listen to. Anyway, comparing it now here with these three, the Wood Note, the NA20, and the IVipQ. Very interesting. Let's say the different approaches that we have here from all of these IEMs, but which all ultimately yield an extremely similar listening experience. The NA20, yes, is the one that does have a little bit more bass, and you will notice it when the song calls for it. You will notice it. But the interesting thing is that balance that again that's struck between those two frequency points that I like using. And when you compare 100 Hertz, okay, with what it corresponds in terms of the mids and upper mids, you get around 2.5 kilohertz, and then the energy below those points is very much balanced, which when you now take the Yacht and you go again 100 hertz and then compare it to where it corresponds, you get very much the same sort of overall situation. And it's that balance that is done, although and I'll show you the graphs now, it's that balance that makes them sound so similar. The same thing to a certain extent happens here with the Wood Note, although you do notice the Wood Note in that 2 to 4 kilohertz area. It's got a little bit extra energy, a little bit extra more detail, and you do notice that it's a little it benefits the female vocals as compared to the Yacht, definitely. As for the Sivga and the Sivga, I've kind of left it for last because honestly, and I think it's very much down to the driver that they're using. The Sivga, in terms of the bass, it's very similar, very similar. Again, I wasn't kind of expecting it to be this equal. Okay, it's there in that area then of 2.5 to 5, where it has a little bit more energy as compared to the Yacht. Helps out with the vocals and with certain instruments, but I don't know what it is that they've done, and I think it's just down basically to the fact that it's using that crazy driver that they're using with wood or bamboo or something of the sort. I forget now. It doesn't sound as energetic or as lively as you would think by looking at the graph. And again, it ultimately has a sound which is kind of very similar to the sound of the Yacht. So they all are very similar. I would say, okay, which comes out on top, which doesn't come out on top. It's a tough one. Trust me, it's a tough one. I have a weak spot here for the wood note because it's got those exchangeable nozzles, and that brings a nice cable. I really enjoyed it. I honestly really enjoyed the sound of the wood note. I'm not gonna deny it. I very much so the NA20. I think the NA20 is really one of the better products from IVipQ, definitely. I think you guys might think I'm kind of exaggerating when I say that, but no, trust me, it is a very capable sounding IM, very capable sounding IM. And it's actually interesting to see how the NA and the IVipQ, they kind of have a similar-ish type of tuning. It's just the extra bass energy here on the NA. But it's not, it just has to do with the driver. You look at the graph and you think, oh no, the NA will definitely be way more bassy than the IVipQ, but then when you listen to it, you actually see that yes, although there's a little extra energy here in terms of the bass, it's not as much as the graph is showing, and that has to do with that balance that's again struck between the frequency that particular driver of that material is reproducing. Were these drivers maybe titanium or beryllium or something of the sort, it would have been completely different. But the fact they're using the driver material that they are using has enabled them to do tuning in this manner, and for that balance of frequencies and of sound and everything and tonality to be a success. That's basically it. So there you have it, guys. Sound wise, competent IM, the Yacht 10, no issues there. In terms of accessories and what it brings, again, very competent. I would have liked to have seen the exchangeable nozzles. Honestly, I would have. There are IEMs that are cheaper than this that do it. Out of these ones here, the wood note is the only one that's doing it. Fine, fair enough, it's 150, but you've got plenty of IEMs that do that. Plenty, so that's not really an excuse, and I think Hiby could have seriously considered that, because I think if they did those exchangeable nozzles, they could have provided a nozzle with a tuning that maybe would have helped out with that upper part of the frequency range where some people might find some issues. Ultimately, as compared to these three, again, I don't want to say that it doesn't have its place or that it's not worth considering. I would say have a listen. It is a good sounding IM, but it just has very tough competition. The IVipQ it's cheaper. It's the cheapest of these other three, and it's actually cheaper even than the IVipQ is a very competent sounding IM. Trust me, very, very competent. NA and the Yacht, price for price, okay, you've got the better build quality here, maybe better cable as well, but again, sound wise, I pin more times towards the NA20, to be totally honest. I go more times for the NA20 than I do here for the Yacht 10, and I like the Yacht 10. The Yacht 10 was a very, very pleasant surprise. And as for the wood note, I mean, I've said it in my review that I just did recently. Phenomenal IM. It's part of my favorite IMs for a reason. Of my single DD IMs for a reason. It's part of the same group where the MK12 is, where the FD15 is, where now ultimately I've also included the Project Ace. So, it's a tough one. Alright, guys, let me just quickly show you the graphs and we'll wrap it up. Okay, guys, let's start now here with the graphs, and I'm going to show you first the graph for the Project Ace. And I think it's very self-explanatory. This is as neutral as can possibly be. Just that little area there, which is then a little bit more energetic, but in my particular case didn't really bug me, but it can be maybe a little problematic for some of you out there. The exchangeable nozzles therefore are justified. by this. For this, maybe with the exchangeable nozzles they could have found a way to mitigate this somehow, which is, for example, what they which is what Hiby has done with the likes of, where is it, there, number 17, exactly, with the likes sorry, yes, not Hiby, what am I talking about, guys? My apologies. Yes, Hiby, there, exactly, with the Hiby. Okay, that's the Hiby. A little bit more base energy, and it's audible. Still, the balance that is struck, look here, that balance, 100 hertz more or less. Okay, and look where it corresponds in the mids. Okay, let's take now the 100 hertz here. Okay, and look where it corresponds. So you see that balance that I'm always talking about. Nicely done, nicely struck. Okay, but this area here, more subdued, maybe perhaps a little bit excessively. No need to have been so radical, but the truth is that those very minor times that I did find things to be getting just a little bit borderline to me, that wasn't the case ever with the MK12. Okay, and somehow maybe this is me now just shooting out my I'm not going to say the word, but you guys can understand. Maybe they are even using the same driver, because the MK12 also uses a magnesium alloy driver, so who knows. Anyway, that's the MK12. This one now here, okay, that's the FD15 from Fio. I think again it's very self-explanatory. You can understand why the similarity in sound and so on and so forth. If anything, I actually found that the bass on the Hiby was maybe just a tad thicker than the bass on the Fio. The Fio is using a 13.6mm driver, so a slightly bigger driver, and I mean very minimal, maybe a little bit extra energy in the low mids of one driver as compared to the other, but FD15, phenomenal. And that's it. FD15, MK12 Touris, as you can see, they all are very similar, except for that little extra energy here on the Project Ace. All right, so that's that. So let's get these out and erased so we don't get them. Okay, now let's show here the Yacht. Actually, I shouldn't have it. I'll get it again. This is the Yacht. Okay, which, let me go fetch it. Hiby, my apologies. I shouldn't have erased the Project Ace. Hiby, Project Ace. There we go. Project Ace. Okay. Let me just change the color. When I said earlier that they share a lot of the same, or of the philosophy of tuning is very equal, I think you guys will agree with me now when I normalize this, and you will see that they are indeed very similar in their overall. There we go. Let me just normalize this at 1 kilohertz. Okay, very similar. Same sort of gliding style of bass, a little bit more energy on the Yacht 10. Obviously it's a 10mm driver. Very similar up top. It's just this area that's got a little extra energy, which then justifies the extra forwardness in the female vocals. Otherwise it is very equal, and I don't think I'm saying any obscene thing by comparing the tuning and saying that it sounds similar. Anyway, that's the Project Ace compared here with the Yacht. Let's just throw now a few IEMs here at the Yacht. Let's start here with the NA20. As you can see, look at again the balance, 100 hertz, where it corresponds, and the amount of energy and dips that you have on one, as compared to the NA20, where it corresponds, and the energy. Although you see one is energetic there and the one is a dip, they sound extremely similar. If anything, I will say that the NA20 has been able to control a little bit better and dissimulate better those times where things get a little bit sharper. And again, the driver material here does influence. So NA20, okay. let's compare it now here with the IVipQ. Same situation again. This sounds very similar in terms of bass, and the bass that's coming from here and the lower mids are more than enough to keep up with the energy that it's there, and this energy that's there in the upper mids and treble is not as much as what the graph shows. Okay, so IVipQ, very competent sounding IM, trust me, very competent. And finally the wood note. The wood note, exactly the same sort of bass, energy, everything as the Yacht, and yes, you do notice that it's a little bit more forward here in the mids, especially the upper mids section. My apologies. But again, not as much as what the graph shows. You know, if anything, it doesn't have that area up top be overly energetic. You don't notice that, you know. What you do notice is that yes, it's a little bit more forward, especially when you take that 100 hertz and you see where it corresponds. It corresponds below 2 kilohertz, which isn't ideal, but that extra forwardness is not as much as you would think by looking at the graph only and taking conclusions from the graph. Guys, and that's basically it. I think I've talked for more than enough time to present here well the Hiby Project Ace and the Yacht 10. Two very nice IMs, I have to say, very nice IMs. I'm definitely not in any manner disappointed by them, especially the Yacht 10. I liked very much its neutrality. The only thing that in either case I would have liked to have seen is that exchangeable nozzles. I think they deserve it, especially in the case of the Project Ace. An IM at that value does deserve to have a little extra to justify more solidly its price. All right, as always, guys, like and subscribe. Any questions, please feel free to ask me, and I'll do my best to reply as quickly as possible. Okay, you take care now. Bye bye.